Now we'll go ahead with the Lieutenant Governor's Forum. Just for informational purpose, all three candidates drew numbers for the choice of order that they would speak. All three candidates are from parish government. We asked for your full attention, and we appreciate all three for being here with us today. Welcome home. Our first candidate, Mr. Billy Nungesser from Plaquemine Parish, past president.
I want to thank y'all for having us here, and thank all of y'all. Especially, it's not I, it's we. And Plaquemines wouldn't be what it is today without the help of all the parishes that pitched in through all of those hurricanes and oil spill. As I travel around the state, I meet a lot of great people that love this state as I love it. And I'm excited about the opportunities for the state. But I'd like to tell you a little bit about me today in the short time we have to make an introduction, because I think it's important when you step up to the plate to serve the people that you have the energy, the passion, and willing to do the hard work and put the team together to be successful. You see, I rode out Katrina, not as parish president. A lot of people thought I was in office then, but I wasn't. Me and my wife had built a therapeutic riding center to take disabled children out of wheelchairs onto the back of horses. We had 26 specially trained horses that we couldn't find a place to evacuate to. So we decided to ride out the storm to protect those animals. And after the storm, all eyes were on New Orleans. Being a small parish south of New Orleans, we didn't get a lot of help, except for the pastors and the volunteers and the people that came from all over, the citizens, to lift up and help that parish. And I decided to run for parish president to bring the attention to that small parish that didn't get a lot of attention after the storm. And I saw with hard work and assembling a team, and I see some of our council members here today that have worked hard for the parish. That team effort has done great things to a parish that kept getting knocked down. As you mentioned, we had 5 hurricanes and an oil spill, one after another. 33% of the oil for the whole Gulf Coast came ashore in Plaquemines Parish. Today, as I left office, working with that team, we have 25,000 people from every parish in the state come to work there. We had a surplus every year in parish government. I've been parish president. All streets have been repaired. We have $2 billion in levies, another $1 billion in infrastructure improvements. And people said we couldn't do it. We didn't have enough population. We wasn't worth it. We had to prove to the federal government and to the state that Plaquemines Parish was worth it, as every one of your parishes is worth it to Baton Rouge. Times are going to be really tough in the coming years with the budget. It's going to take passion, hard work, and not accepting no for an answer to get the job done as lieutenant governor. Tourism is the #1 job. There's not more passionate people anywhere in this state than the people that work in tourism. And it's going to take a team effort in Baton Rouge. It's going to take someone that puts the state ahead of their political career, as looking over at the governor, whoever's elected, election night, and say, Governor, I'm not running against you in 4 years. Let's work as a team to solve the problems and make sure we continue to grow tourism, as it's been an economic engine for this whole state. I see a lot of great historical sites around this state, parks, museums, that are in desperate need of repairs and maintenance. And we keep robbing Peter to pay Paul to put Band-Aids on these things. We've got to bring the legislators and elected officials from around the state to put together some long-term funding to make sure those needed assets are the best they can be when people visit our state. You know, as I look back on the 8 years as parish president, one thing I learned with the 5 hurricanes and the oil spill, each of you coming across parish lines working as a team has made the coast and the parishes that have suffered so hard in those storms better than they've ever been. And around the state, I believe we can do that the same, working with the governor and the legislators to make sure we solve all those problems moving forward. I ask for your support. You won't be disappointed with my effort to always do the right thing. Thank you, and God bless you.
My name's John Young, and I do want to give you just a little bit more of my background so you know where I come from and what passion and determination I'm going to bring to the office of Lieutenant Governor. I am an attorney, and when I got out of law school, I went into private practice in downtown New Orleans as a maritime defense attorney, representing oil and gas interests, representing oil and gas service companies and barges that did work up and down the Mississippi River and called on the ports up and down the Mississippi River. I made a partner at the firm after 4.5 years. After 10 years, I went out on my own and formed my own law firm, which was basically a small business and had to make payroll. A lot of times, I had to pay myself last. Sometimes I had to skip salary because I knew if I didn't pay my staff on Friday, they weren't going to show up on Monday. In 1996, a good friend of mine decided to run for district attorney in Jefferson Parish, a guy by the name of Paul Connick. He's still the district attorney of Jefferson Parish. And I went to work as an assistant district attorney and prosecutor in addition to my private law practice. In 2003, I decided to run for councilman at large in Jefferson Parish. Jefferson Parish, for those of you who may not be familiar with Jefferson Parish, is one of the largest parishes in the state, second most populous parish in the state of Louisiana, have about 450,000 people, and we go from Lake Pontchartrain to the Gulf of Mexico, and Grand Isle is part of Jefferson Parish. I ran for that councilman at large position and won and became council chairman, got reelected in 2007. I was in office when Katrina hit, and I do remember staying here the entire time and sleeping on the floor of East Jefferson General Hospital, and ended up staying in my office on the West Bank, which I nicknamed the Gretna Ritz because we had a couch and running water. Went through all the other hurricanes, Katrina, Rita, Gustav, Ike, the BP oil spill, Tropical Storm Lee, and Hurricane Isaac. In 2009, we had a crisis in Jefferson Parish, federal investigation which rocked our parish. Our former parish president, our former parish attorney, and our former CAO all resigned amid a federal investigation. Ultimately, all pled guilty to federal criminal charges. I decided to run for the open seat of parish president, ran for that, and got elected with 80% of the vote. And I had a task on my hands because the public's confidence and trust had been shaken in Jefferson Parish government. So within 1 year, I had to run again, and I had to step on a lot of toes, and I had to do a lot of things that weren't popular with the political class. One of the things we did is we created the first ever inspector general in Jefferson Parish history to institutionalize reforms for years to come, independent of the parish president, independent of the council, and with an independent budget. And it's not just about good government. It's about economic development. Because you work at the parish level, if people feel that they have an open, equal, and fair playing field, they're coming and invest in your parish, they're going to do business in your parish, and your parish is going to prosper. We were able to accomplish that. We reestablished the public's confidence and trust. We stand for transparency and accountability. And a year later, I got reelected without opposition. In addition to serving as Jefferson Parish president, I've also served, as Guy said, as president of PACE, Parishes Against Coastal Erosion. That's 20 coastal parishes in the state of Louisiana. Hopefully one day it'll be all 64 parishes, because I don't think you can overstate, ladies and gentlemen, the importance of coastal restoration, coastal protection. We're losing a football field of land every 38 minutes in the state of Louisiana. It's not just a coastal issue. It's not just a state of Louisiana issue. It's a national issue. We produce 30 to 35% of the oil and natural gas consumed in the United States of America. We produce 30 to 35% of the fisheries consumed in the United States of America. And I want to let you in on a little dirty secret. Some of y'all just came back from D.C., had some crab cakes up in D.C. Well, Barbara Mikulski, the U.S. Senator from Maryland, was down in Grand Isle during the BP oil spill, and she pulled me to the side after a press conference and said, we really have to clean up the Gulf, because those Chesapeake Bay crabs you get up in D.C., they actually come from the state of Louisiana. We provide the crabs in the state of Maryland. So that's why it's important that we get and preserve and protect our coastal wetlands. I've also served for the last 8 years with many of you on the executive board of Louisiana Police Jury Association. As Guy said, I'm on the Coastal Protection Restoration Authority appointed by Governor Jindal, and I also serve on the I-49 South Task Force. We need to continue to invest in infrastructure. We need to get I-49 South built between Lafayette and the port of New Orleans. I decided to run for lieutenant governor. A lot of people ask, why are you running for lieutenant governor? Why do you care about tourism? I can tell you, tourism matters. Why does tourism matter? Tourism matters because it employs directly over 150,000 people. Tourism matters because in 2013, the last year we have stats, over 27.3 million people visited the state of Louisiana. Most of them came to the city of New Orleans and the metropolitan area. We need to do a better job of moving those people throughout the entire state of Louisiana, because this is a very unique and diverse state, and every part of our state has something unique and diverse to offer, and we need to get those people traveling through the rest of the state of Louisiana. Whether you live in Monroe or Morgan City, whether you live in Shreveport or Shreveport, whether you live in New Orleans or Natchitoches, whether you live in Bossier City or Baton Rouge, whether you live in Lafayette, Lake Charles, or Livonia, whether you live in Vidalia or Vacherie, every part of our state has something to offer, and we need to make sure that when we get people in the state of Louisiana, we funnel them throughout the rest of the state of Louisiana, so every portion of our state gets a share of that tourist dollar. And what is that tourist dollar? We all have been reading every day about our state and how bad finances are. Tourism generates, in 2013, over $800 million to our state treasury. What does that mean to each and every one of us? That means it saves each and every one of us about $400 a year in taxes. $400 a year in taxes. And if you're like me, a fiscal conservative, you hate new taxes, but you love new taxpayers. And what's the best kind of new taxpayers? The temporary new taxpayers, the ones who come here, leave their money and go home. Why? Because we don't have to pay for the infrastructure to support them. We don't have to pay to educate their children. That is money that they leave behind that we can use to provide additional services to the people that live in the state of Louisiana. That's why tourism matters. It's a growth industry, it's an $11 billion industry, and it's a clean industry, and we need to continue to invest in it. I can tell you that as lieutenant governor, we also need to continue to watch and invest money into our welcome centers, because that's when people come in Louisiana, that's the first thing they see. We need to continue to invest in our state park system, because a lot of people come and stay in our state parks. The present lieutenant governor has done a great job, but there's been a budget crunch, and we need to find a way to continue to invest, because that brings money back into the state of Louisiana, into the treasury. I can tell you, in addition to that, I want to work with the next governor. I want to take a page out of Jimmy Fitzmaurice's playbook, and I want to concentrate on pure economic development. The good news, ladies and gentlemen, although we've had a hiccup, the good news is that we're poised for an economic renaissance in the state of Louisiana. And I know there was a news story the other day that Sasol is kind of pulling back a little bit because of the low price of oil, but oil's going to come back up. It always does. It's cyclical. But the good news is, over the next 10 years, if everything goes back to where it was and the oil prices can continue to go back up, which they will do at one point, 85,000 to 90,000 new jobs will be created in the state of Louisiana over the next 10 years. That's the good news. The not so good news is we don't have the skilled workforce to fill those jobs, but we need to fill those jobs with people from the state of Louisiana, with citizens from the state of Louisiana. That's why we need to continue to invest in our educational system, particularly our community and technical college system, so that we can fill those jobs with citizens of Louisiana so that they can raise their children, educate their children, and provide for their families. I can tell you, when I ran the first time for Councilman at Large in Jefferson Parish, I got an invitation to work the gate at 5 o'clock in the morning at Avondale. I said, this is great. I got a target-rich environment. There were about 5,000 to 6,000 employees there at the time. But when I started shaking hands, I realized a lot of people from Mississippi and Alabama and Texas, they were coming in and living here. We need to fill those jobs with Louisiana citizens, and that's why we need to continue to invest in our educational system. I want to continue to work on our infrastructure. It's not only important. We're overtaxed on our infrastructure. I'm traveling the state right now, and I can tell you we're chock-a-blocked everywhere. We need to continue to restore the Public Confidence Trust and Louisiana Transportation Trust Fund, and we need to do that, not only for economic development, but for tourism, because when we get people here, they need to be able to travel the rest of parts of the state and spend their dollars in other parts of the state. We have Poverty Point now, a World Heritage Site. That's going to bring 10,000 people a year, additional 10,000 people a year to Northeast Louisiana. We have all kind of ecotourism. We have sports tourism. It's not just a traditional tourism where you come into New Orleans and go down Bourbon Street. You have sports tourism, ecotourism. People want to go on swamp tours. You have the cruise terminals that are bringing people here. With the new airport, if we bring more international travelers in, they stay here 10 to 14 days. When they're here 10 to 14 days, they travel throughout the state and they spend a lot more money. So I think our best days are ahead of us. I want to continue to serve you in that capacity. I want to thank each and every one of you for what you do, because serving at the local level is probably the most challenging and at the same time the most rewarding, because we're the ones where the rubber meets the road. We're the ones that people see and can touch and talk to in the restaurants, in the coffee shops, the cafes, the churches, the synagogues, the grocery stores. We can't print money like the federal government. We can't run a deficit. The state can't run a deficit either, but we all know the state always sends down those unfunded state mandates, and then local government has to make it work. You're going to have a friend and an ally in the Lieutenant Governor's office, because I know what a challenge it is, but I also know how rewarding it is. We're going to work with your Convention and Visitors Bureau. We're going to work with your tourism commissions, because we know it's important to your local communities. And we also know that the fairs and festivals, we have over 400, because we have a joy for life in the state of Louisiana. And I'm going to continue to promote that and continue to promote the diverse culture and unique state that we are. Nobody would want to, who wants to visit Kansas when you can come to Louisiana and New Orleans? You can come to Mardi Gras here, you can go to Mardi Gras in Southwest Louisiana and have a totally different experience. So I want to thank you for your time and attention today. I look forward to working with you as I travel around the state over the next year. I look forward to working with you to make our great state an even better state to live, work, raise a family, and visit. May God continue to bless you and your families, and may God continue to bless the state of Louisiana and the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you and good morning. I tell you, he basically gave my speech for me. But let me just say to Madam President and to all the officers of this great organization, it's indeed a pleasure to be here, and I can tell you that you have been a part of my family for decades, and you are some of the hardest working people. And we talk about hard working people because a lot of people do a 9 to 5. We do a 24-hour job. You go to church, after you finish praying, sometimes you want to lose your religion. You go and you want to sit down with your family, having lunch or dinner, and the same thing, I need to talk to you about something. But the one that got me was on my wedding day. My wife and I are in the receiving line, and a guy leans over and he says, Mr. Holden, I'd like to talk to you about something. I say, hey man, don't talk to me about no GD council business on my wedding day. But the bottom line is, you are away from your families on a consistent basis. You go through heartaches of thousands of people. You go above and beyond the call of duty every day. And a lot of times, some won't even say thank you. But because of your faith, your tenacity, and the fact that you don't want to be a failure, the work ethic of elected officials is really undefined unless you've stepped in those shoes. So I want to thank all of you personally for all the work that you've done, and let you know that many of you are appreciated for all that you do to make this whole state a lot better. And I will say this, we are happy that last year we were able to host this meeting in Baton Rouge. And I have enjoyed working with many of you in this room for over decades, as I've said before. But allow me for just a minute to highlight some of the things we have been able to accomplish, which you have heard in Baton Rouge, not to boast, but to show you what is possible when you do two things. First, dare to dream big. Then put everything aside, partisan politics, North Louisiana versus South Louisiana, black, white, young, and old, and work together for the greater good of this great state. Because when we do that, it's magic, and there's no stopping us. We have the talents and the resources to solve problems that affect the world, problems like coastal erosion, where I've been working with other Mississippi River mayors from Louisiana to the headwaters of Minnesota, because we know a healthy and sustainable coast and river are important to our economy and our way of life. And with organizations like the Americans Wetland Foundation to make sure America knows it's important too. And that's why we partnered with the state and LSU, and now we're building a world-class water campus where you'll have students from all over Louisiana and the United States, scientists from all over the world coming to Baton Rouge in a first-class, world-class center for coastal research. We've been able to move Baton Rouge from a town you visit when you have business at the Capitol or when you come to any LSU or Southern University football game, to the #1 market, major market of the year in America, the #1 metro area for economic growth potential, the 7th best city in America for young families, the 8th best place to live in America, a top 25 place to retire. And also, when you look at other things that are going on, we're not just notified and noticed over the United States, but I guess if you had a chance to see Delta Sky magazine back in April, a 6-page spread about Baton Rouge led off with this title, Baton Rouge is Booming. So we are taking our message all across the world about what we're doing. Baton Rouge and the other cities around Louisiana are certainly crown jewels when it comes to drawing visitors from anywhere in the world. But I believe we have to focus on our small towns and villages, our Main Street programs, bringing businesses into more rural areas and promoting what they have to offer. More and more travelers are attracted to the experiences that small towns offer. We have to help you roll out the welcome mat so visitors can enjoy the food, the music, the culture, and recreational opportunities we have to offer. We can help connect the dots for farm-to-table dining. But I want you to listen to what's happening with farmers these days. I was at a meeting with a number of farmers, and the U.S. Secretary of Agriculture was there. A guy raised his hand, and he was recognized by the secretary. He says, "Mr. Secretary, let me tell you what's going on with farms. I ran an ad in the paper for 5 weeks trying to get somebody to come and work on my farm. I did not get one reply to that ad." He said, "Here's the dilemma I am now facing. I have crops rotting in the ground because I can't find help to harvest those crops. But more than that, I have a second dilemma. I don't know what to plant this year because I don't know whether or not I'll be able to find help to get those goods out of the farming area back in the stores and businesses. We can't let our farmers die. There are hundreds and thousands of people in Louisiana who are starving every day. There are people trying to fill the need, but I encourage you to help your farm communities and let them know what's going on. Set up mobile markets, set up little stands where people can come and get fresh food. Tell those farmers you don't have to go out of the community to make a difference. There are people right here who will do that. I believe tomorrow will be great in Louisiana. Family reunions, sports and recreation, ecotourism, food, music, and history. I believe each one of you has something in your parish that can provide a unique experience for visitors. And I will work with you to make sure our small towns not only survive, but they also thrive. Here's how we do it. I want to know 3 things on this road to becoming the next lieutenant governor. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? And what are your priorities? Then I will work with you to make those priorities a reality. We'll focus on building a great foundation first that begins with jobs. I recently helped the state recruit into Baton Rouge the IBM Corporation. Over 800 jobs that we now have or in the process of having in Baton Rouge. I helped to recruit a CH2M Hill, and they are out there now trying to help young people through job training. I brought Sherwin-Williams in to provide job training for people to become master painters. I got our general contractors and building associations to sit down with our labor unions. And you go back to the early 70s and late 60s, we all know the turmoil that was going on in Louisiana between labor and business. And a good friend of mine who was a reporter in North Louisiana was shot to death as he went to his hotel room. But just the other night, I had the pleasure of giving the address for the ABC. In the ABC, we have to tell a unique story. There are young men and women who are taking crafts, pipe fitters, welding, all of these jobs in 2 years after they finish school. Can you believe they come out making, on the low side, $50,000 a year? And so we have to move forward. So I would tell you this, that we've trained over 100 people in specialized jobs, and movie making isn't just for our cities. It was just announced this week that Matthew McConaughey will film a major movie in Clinton, Louisiana in May, and Mayor Lori Bell is expecting a boost in tourism. But I can also tell you that in a recent survey, Baton Rouge is #1, not only the best place to live and work as a movie maker among small cities. New Orleans is #2. My point is, there is something special about each of our small towns, and it's up to us to shine the light on what we have to offer. We have to look at the seafood board. And as you've already heard, and I'd heard the same thing, when you go to Maryland, they say, oh, come and enjoy the Maryland blue crabs. And then I'm going like, what? Maryland blue crabs? These are Louisiana crabs. And yet they want to take credit for it. I'll work with the Agriculture Commissioner and the Louisiana Economic Development to sell our seafood industry locally, nationally, and internationally. I've developed a network of international contacts through governments and global industries operating in Louisiana, and together we'll recruit new businesses and opportunities to improve the local economies in all of our communities. I will be your promoter. No one comes close. We're in the midst of the greatest population and largest population of retirees in the history of Louisiana. And now we see baby boomers growing up. Louisiana is a great place to retire, and the lieutenant governor can make it even better. As you've heard, I've been a Metro councilman, a state rep, a state senator, and mayor president. I recruit new businesses, negotiate film and television deals, help host great arts and literary music and entertainment events. I even, last year, got Donald Trump to bring Miss USA to Baton Rouge. And that competition to Baton Rouge meant a lot, because for the first time, we had the largest ratings across the world because of that conference that came to Baton Rouge. The first time in 7 years they had that many people watching. I'm a salesman and a promoter, an advocate, and even a cheerleader when needed. I'll run Louisiana's most populated parish for the 10 last great years, and I want to be your next lieutenant governor. The job is not a stepping stone. It's an opportunity to lift up every corner of our state to the world and say, in Louisiana, tomorrow will be great. So come and join us. You will never be a spot on Louisiana's map. You will be a city, town, or village the world will know. Thank you so much. And I look forward to working with you to tell people, all of the people of Louisiana, we'll have a welcome mat and people who will greet you, give you hospitality second to none, and let them know our home is their home. I need your help so we can make a difference. The road has already been paved. We must make sure we remove the potholes. Thank you very much. I look forward to being your next Lieutenant Governor, and God bless you.